Alan Biggs, who's a journalist based in Sheffield, who knew Gary personally. Alan, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
Well, I'm like everybody, I suppose I'm as well as can be expected. This news it devastates even people who've never met Gary Speed. So high was the esteem in which he was held by football supporters. The world of football is shocked, and like many a journalist, I had the pleasure of meeting Gary on many occasions. I knew him, I didn't know him well, but my son actually, feeling that I might not have heard the news this morning, took care to actually ring me to break it to me in case I hadn't heard. And it tells you really just the effect that this has on everybody who knew him. Nobody can believe it. I genuinely think he treated everybody just the same. And I think the mark of greatness isn't just to do with the attainments of professional sporting people, what they achieve there. True greatness is measured by the person themselves. And Gary Speed was just a genuine, likeable, humble man, a lot of humility about him, as I say, no side to him. And I think that's why there is such depth of feeling, not only what he achieved in sport. I first came across him when he was a player at Leeds and interviewed him 2 or 3 times, but got to know him rather better in his time first as a player, then as a coach and manager, finally at Sheffield United. And the last time I saw him was just over a year ago. The journalists around here organised a manager's lunch at Christmas. Gary came to that, but he didn't just come to the meal. We have a tradition of going on, as you can imagine, journalists, Christmas time, hostelries. We went on to a pub across the road from Bramall Lane. Gary came with us, enjoyed the fun, joined in games of pool. He was still there, in fact, when I left, which shows you just how he mixed and what a great guy he was to know. I was never sure that the Sheffield United job came around at the right time for Gary, in much the same way that I don't think it came round at the right time for you either, Nigel. It's a huge job requiring a great deal of experience, and he got it at an inexperienced time and at a difficult time for that football club. And I think it was good timing for Gary when the Wales job came along. And he's revered in Wales. He was able to unite that nation behind him because of the kind of guy he is. Yeah. And even he admitted he was surprised at how well he'd been doing with Wales and the results, and that just adds to the tragedy, doesn't it? There was so much promise, not only in Gary's life, but for the Welsh football team.
You obviously have a lot of personal memories and professional memories. What would be your overriding memory of Gary, both professionally and from your time spent in his company?
Watching him as a player, a terrific midfield player, parlance of the game. He had a great engine, but also a lot of quality. He was a wonderful ambassador for the game in the way that he played, and not only an exceptional performer, but a very fair performer, generous to the opposition, a credit to the game in every respect from a disciplinary point of view as well. But as a goal scorer, besides being a midfield player who could create, who could play wide, could play central, he could play really right across there, but he had great spring, didn't he? And would pop up with headed goals for Leeds and for Newcastle and for others. But latterly, in his time at Sheffield United, just getting to know a fella who was a legend, but betrayed no airs and graces whatsoever. And again, I relate back to the times in the pub and the Christmas meal last year, how much he joined in and how much we all enjoyed him joining in.